It's funny. Whenever we talk about military tech, I feel like my mind always goes to the hardware. Bigger tanks, faster jets, all those hypersonic missiles we keep hearing about. It's always about the kinetic stuff, the things that go boom.
Right, that's the traditional view of warfare. It's about who has the biggest stick.
Exactly. But looking at the stack of research we have on the table for today, it really feels like we've crossed some kind of, some kind of threshold.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about new weapons. We're talking about a completely new operating system for war. And I don't mean that as a metaphor. I mean actual algorithms and code deciding who lives and dies.
That is a great way to frame it. The research we're digging into today, and it's a heavy stack. We've got technical papers, legal breakdowns, strategic assessments. It's not describing some far-off future.
No.
This is happening right now. And specifically, we're looking at the confrontation between Israel and Iran to really understand what algorithmic warfare is.
And that's the mission for this deep dive, right? To really unpack that term. Because I think when people hear AI and war, their first thought is, the Terminator.
Right, a robot with a gun.
A robot walking across a wasteland.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's a lot more like a spreadsheet, isn't it?
It is. It's less about robots fighting robots and more about data processing systems. Systems that generate kill lists at a speed that no human could ever match.
And to get this, you really have to look at the two very different philosophies that are clashing.
Yes, completely different approaches.
So lay it out for us. What are the two sides?
Okay, so on one side you have Israel. Their approach is, let's call it the glass house. It's hyper advanced, it's data heavy, it's all about precision surveillance.
You see everything, know everything.
Exactly. And then use AI to filter all that data into actionable targets.
And the other side?
The other side is Iran. And, because of sanctions and just different strategic goals, they're playing a totally different game. They play swarm. They can't match the tech quality. They don't have the same access to semiconductors. So they just overwhelm with quantity. It's classic asymmetric strategy.
So it's the all-seeing eye versus the infinite swarm.
That's a very apt way to put it.
Okay, let's start with the Israeli side then, because the sources on this, reports on systems with names like Lavender and the Gospel, frankly, they're startling. When I first read about Lavender, I honestly had to double check. I wasn't reading an excerpt from some dystopian novel.
It sounds like fiction, I know, but it's very real. Lavender is a machine learning system developed by the IDX Elite Unit 8200. And to put it really simply, it's a ranking engine.
A ranking engine?
Yeah.
Like ranking movies on Netflix?
In terms of the underlying math. Sort of, yeah. But instead of movies, it's processing huge amounts of surveillance data on Gaza's 2.3 million residents.
Wow.
And it analyzes all that data and assigns every single person a score.
A score. From 1 to 100.
Correct. A rating of how likely they are to be an operative for Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
Okay, we need to stop there for a second and really look under the hood. How does a computer decide something like that? It's not like it's looking for a membership card.
No, and that's where the technical stuff in the research is so important. The sources talk about features. So in traditional intelligence, you'd look for a determinative feature.
Right.
You see a guy holding a rocket launcher, you know he's a combatant. It's a fact.
A smoking gun.
Exactly. Lavender, though, it relies on what the sources are calling proxy features.
Proxy features. That sounds like some serious jargon. What does that mean in plain English?
It means the system is looking for patterns that correlate with being a militant. It's looking for lifestyle similarities.
Like what?
For example, are you in a WhatsApp group with a known operative?
Yeah.
Do you change your cell phone's SIM card every couple of weeks? Do you move house a lot?
So the logic is, militants change phones, you change phones, therefore there's a good chance you're a militant.
Precisely. It's all probabilistic. It's not deterministic. It's just looking for a digital footprint that matches a certain target profile.
And it's efficient at this.
Incredibly. The reports say that at its peak, Lavender generated a database of up to 37,000 potential human targets.
37,000. That scale is... I can't even wrap my head around that. If you had human analysts trying to build dossiers on that many people, it would take years.
It would. And that's the appeal of AI, right?
Yeah.
Speed and scale. But if it's all based on probability, there has to be an error rate.
Right. If I change my phone because I dropped it in the sink and I just happen to live in a certain neighborhood,
yeah,
how does the AI know the difference?
That is the central question. The sources cite a claimed accuracy rate for lavender of about 90%. Now, in Silicon Valley, 90% is pretty good.
Sure, if you're recommending a movie.
Exactly. But we aren't talking about movies. We are talking about airstrikes.
And the math on that is it's pretty brutal.
It is. If you have a list of 37,000 people and a 10% error rate, you are statistically guaranteeing that thousands of those targets are misidentified civilians who just happen to have suspicious data habits.
That is a staggering number of potential mistakes.
Hmm.
And Lavender isn't even the only system here. You mentioned another one, the Gospel, or Basora. How's that one different?
Think of it this way. Lavender targets who, and the Gospel targets what.
Okay.
The Gospel uses AI to identify infrastructure, buildings, tunnels, launch sites, that sort of thing. It uses a traffic light system, red, yellow, green, to recommend targets based on military value versus the estimated collateral damage.
And again, it's all about speed.
All about speed. The reports say it can generate 100 prioritized targets a day.
No human team could do that.
No way. Before these systems, identifying one target was this long, laborious process. You needed all this cross-verification. Now, the machine serves up 100 options before lunchtime.
Which brings us to the rubber stamp controversy. This is the part of the reports that really got me. Because you'd think, okay, there's a 10% error rate on Lavender, so the humans must be double-checking very, very carefully.
You would hope so. But the investigations suggest not so much.
The sources claim that human officers were spending about 20 seconds verifying each target.
20 seconds?
I mean, seriously, I take longer than that to decide if I want to delete a spam email. What on earth can you verify in 20 seconds when a life is on the line?
Almost nothing. The report suggests the check was often just a formality. Maybe verifying the target was male, for instance.
So they weren't re-examining the intelligence. They weren't asking why the machine flagged someone.
They were just trying to keep up with the flow.
It's that psychological thing, right? Automation bias.
It's exactly that. It's a very well-documented phenomenon. When you're under immense stress and this incredibly sophisticated, expensive computer tells you this is the answer, your brain is just wired to trust it.
You assume the machine knows more than you do.
Of course. It crunched 1 billion data points. Who am I in my 20-second window to argue with it?
So the human stops being a decision maker and just becomes a validator.
Or, as the sources call it, a rubber stamp.
And then, just when you think it can't get any more dystopian, you find out about the system with the absolute most chilling name I have ever heard. Where's Daddy?
Yes. That name is in the investigative reports.
Can you explain what that is? Because just saying it out loud is deeply unsettling.
Where's a Daddy is described as a specific tracking tool. It's designed to alert operators when a target from that lavender list enters their family home.
Wait. So the system is explicitly waiting for them to go home.
That appears to be the operational implication, yes. You have to think about the logistics of it. Finding a militant when they're on the move, in a tunnel, in active combat, it's incredibly hard.
They're hidden.
They're mobile.
Right.
But eventually, everyone goes home.
So it's optimizing for the easiest shot.
That's right. It is structurally easier to hit a target at a fixed known address. But, and this is where the legal analysis really comes in, this raises enormous questions about proportionality.
Because if you hit someone at home, you know their family is there. You know you aren't just hitting the target.
Exactly. The system, by its very design, seems to be flagging targets at the precise moment when civilian presence is guaranteed. It suggests as a shift in priorities, where the kill is prioritized over the precaution of avoiding civilian harm.
Okay, so that's the Israeli model. Hyper-specific, data-driven, but struggling with the sheer volume and the dehumanization of it all. Let's pivot to Iran, because their operating system for war is totally different.
Completely different. And to understand why, you have to look at the economics. Iran has been under heavy sanctions for decades. They don't have access to the cutting-edge NVIDIA chips that Israel and the U.S. have.
So they can't build their own lavender even if they wanted to.
They can't. They can't win on quality. They can't win on high-end computing. So they pivoted. They went for quantity.
And the centerpiece of that is the suicide drone.
The loitering munition, yes. These are relatively cheap drones. And that low price point, that's the real weapon. The strategy is economic attrition.
Right.
Think about it. An Iron Dome interceptor missile costs, what, roughly $50,000 to fire?
Okay, 50 grand a pop.
Now, if Iran or one of its proxies launches a drone that costs maybe $2,000 to build.
The math is not good for the defender.
Not at all. Even if Israel shoots down every single drone, They are losing that financial exchange at a rate of 25-1. Iran wins just by making them spend the money.
It's a cost-benefit of war. You're trying to bankrupt the defender.
Precisely. And this is where swarm intelligence comes in. The sources describe a mother platform concept.
Okay.
You don't just send one drone, you send a wave. You have one main unit coordinating a bunch of smaller, dumber drones. They don't all need to be smart. They just need to talk to each other enough to overwhelm the enemy's radar systems.
It's like a hive of bees attacking someone in a suit of armor. Your murder's great, but if there are enough bees, one of them will find a gap.
That's the logic exactly. Overwhelm through saturation.
But I was actually surprised to read that even with this low-tech reputation, there is some really clever engineering going on. The sources mentioned a specific cruise missile, the Mobin, and it has this feature called DSMC.
The Mobin is a really fascinating case study in working around your limitations. See, in modern warfare, jamming GPS is standard practice. So if your missile only relies on satellites, it's going to get lost.
So how does the Mobin find its way if the GPS is out?
It uses DSMC digital scene matching area correlation. It basically has a camera on its belly.
A camera?
Yeah. It takes pictures of the ground as it flies and compares those real-time images to a map stored in its memory.
So it's literally looking at the terrain, like, okay, there's that river, there's that mountain ridge, I know where I am.
Exactly. It's visual navigation. It makes the missile autonomous even when its connection to space is cut. It's a very clever workaround.
And it seems like Iran is also applying this AI approach to the information space.
Oh, absolutely. A cyber component is huge. And we're not just talking about hacking servers anymore. We're talking about AI-driven influence operations.
Like deepfakes.
Deepfakes for propaganda. Automated social media personas that get into arguments with real people just to sow discord and confusion. It's automated psychological warfare.
It is. Using AI to just fog the line between what's real and what's not.
Which is another form of asymmetric warfare. If you can't beat their army, try to break their society's will to fight.
So we have these two completely different approaches colliding. But I want to circle back to the human element. Because reading through all these reports, there's a huge conflict in the narrative.
There is, yeah.
The media reports, calling it a mass assassination factory, they paint a picture of AI just running wild. But then the IDF says, no, Lavender's just a database. It helps our analysts. It doesn't replace them. How do we square those two things?
Well, the analysis from some of the legal scholars suggests that both things might actually be true. It just depends on the timeline and the pressure.
How so?
Okay, so imagine the tool was designed as a decision support system. That's the official line. It's supposed to help a human analyst, like a superpowered search engine.
Sure, that makes sense.
But then the war starts, and the operational tempo just explodes. The sources note that in the first few weeks, targets were being nominated at a rate of 36 per hour.
36 an hour. That's one every less than 2 minutes.
Right. And at that speed, the support system effectively becomes the decision maker. You physically cannot perform a meaningful legal and ethical review of a person's life in under 2 minutes. It's impossible.
So the whole process just collapses into rubber stamping.
Exactly. The human is technically still in the loop. They're the one who pushes the final button, but psychologically and procedurally, they're completely out of the loop.
They become a kind of legal fig leaf.
That's the core critique. The presence of a human doesn't actually matter if that human isn't given the time or the space to be human.
And speaking of requirements, reading the legal blogs in our stack, I just got this overwhelming sense that the law is completely out of its depth here.
It's like trying to regulate a Ferrari with traffic laws that were written for a horse and buggy. The Geneva Conventions were written for a world of clear visual confirmation. A soldier sees another soldier. A pilot sees a tank.
But now we have the black box problem.
Yes, the explainability challenge. Article 36 of Additional Protocol Arrow requires states to review new weapons to make sure they can be used legally. But with deep learning AI, which is what Lavender uses, the system often can't explain why it made a certain decision.
Because it's a neural network, it just sees a pattern.
Correct. So if you ask the programmer, why did the AI flag this person? The programmer might honestly have to say, I don't know, the math just said so.
And you can't cross-examine an algorithm.
You can't. And if you can't explain the decision, how can you prove it was proportionate? How can you prove you distinguished between a civilian and a combatant? The whole legal framework relies on accountability, and AI just dissolves accountability.
There was one really specific example in the research that highlighted this for me, the idea of surrender.
It's such a powerful example of the limits of AI's context. International law is crystal clear. You cannot attack someone who is hors de combat.
Out of the fight.
Yeah.
Wounded, surrendering.
Right. If a soldier drops his gun and puts his hands up, the rules change. You can't shoot him. A human soldier understands that. They see the gesture, they get the context, they hold their fire.
But an AI on a loitering drone.
It has no context. It just sees the target profile. It identifies the uniform or the facial data, and it executes its command. It doesn't understand that the gesture of raising your hands completely changes the legal status of that target.
It's a failure of context.
It lacks the capacity for mercy or even just for basic legal adherence when circumstances change on the ground.
And that speed and that lack of context, it leads to this bigger strategic danger that the security policy assessment mentioned, flash war.
Flash war, yeah.
That sounds like high-frequency trading on the stock market, but with missiles.
That is the perfect analogy. If your AI systems are identifying threats and recommending strikes in seconds, and the enemy's AI is doing the same thing, you compress the timeline for conflict down to almost nothing.
There's no time left to talk.
None. In the past, leaders had days, maybe hours, to de-escalate a crisis. They could pick up the red phone. Now they might have minutes. It creates this huge incentive to just strike first, before the other side's swarm gets you.
It takes all the circuit breakers out of diplomacy.
It does. It encourages this hair-trigger posture that makes an accidental war so much more likely.
So if we bring this all together, we are looking at a present, not even a future, where the sheer pace of war is dictating the morality of war.
That's the synthesis, yes.
Right.
Whether it's Israel's precision glasshouse or Iran's mass swarm, the result is the same. The human element is being squeezed out, pushed to the margins.
And it's important for you to realize, this isn't just staying in the Middle East.
No, not at all. The technology gap is closing very, very fast. The components to build these kinds of systems, commercial drones, basic AI chips, they're becoming more and more accessible.
So fully autonomous weapons, where the machine selects and engages without any human sign-off.
They are technologically possible today. We aren't waiting for some big breakthrough. We're just waiting for a policy to change or for the global norms to erode just a little bit more.
It really forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. I mean, we started this by saying it isn't science fiction. But I want to leave you with this one thought from the reports. It's haunted me. The concept of digital dehumanization.
It's the fundamental ethical crisis here.
If we can reduce a human being, a father, a neighbor, a person with a whole life story, if we reduce them to just a row on a spreadsheet, a score of, say, 62 out of 100, have we broken that moral barrier that keeps war from just becoming total slaughter?
That is the question. When you turn people into data points, it becomes so much easier to just delete them. And if the human in the loop is only spending 20 seconds glancing at that score, is there really a human there at all? Or have we just automated our conscience right along with our weapons?
That is a heavy reality, but one we're going to have to face. We'll be tracking how these systems evolve because this genie is not going back in the bottle. Thanks for digging into this with us.
Thank you.